My name is Vincent Lamb. I'm an Academy Award nominee from 2019, but today I'm here with the cast and crew of Stenofonen, which is one of the live-action short films which is on the shortlist for the Academy Awards this year. So congratulations, guys. That's great. To start, I think we'll just get everybody just to introduce yourselves. So if you want to just say your name and your role on the film. So Nikolai, let's start with you.
Yeah, my name is Nikolai Copernicus, and I'm the director of this movie, Stenofonen, and I'm also an actor for like 25, 30 years.
Right, and Louis, this is your son beside you, Louis.
My name is Louis, and I play, I play my grandfather. I'm 14 years old. Yes.
Good to have you, Louis. Yeah, well done. And Kim.
My name is Kim Magnuson. I'm producing this actually together with Nikolai. He's not only the director, he's also wrote it and producing it with me, and actually acts in it in one scene for 22 seconds. So yes, but that's me, Kim Magnuson.
Right. Thanks, Kim. Good to have you back again. Yeah. So, Nikolai, congratulations on making the shortlist. How did it feel when you saw Stenofonen there on the shortlist of 15 for the Oscars?
Well, that feels so good. And immediately we grabbed the phone and called up Kim. And actually, I opened a bottle of champagne because my girlfriend, she brought a bottle of champagne. She didn't know if we were shortlisted or not. Right. Well, we opened and we had a glass of champagne, and it was a nice evening. And I'm so happy because it's a very personal story and based on my father's life. And then, of course, it means a lot to me.
Right. So was it a big surprise to you to see it there?
Yeah, it was a big surprise because you don't think it's possible. But on the other hand, now it's really a nice thing, and it's nice because we have been working a lot for this movie.
So it's based on like a very personal story to you. So tell us a bit about just that and what inspired you to write this story.
Yeah, it's actually a combination of two things in my father's life, because my whole life, my father always told me that he had a really tough relationship to his father. And it was strange for me to hear that because it's my grandfather. And I had a really wonderful relationship to him. He always told me through my whole life that his father never saw him and never gave him credit for anything. And he didn't saw all his talented potential. And then I felt that my father only went through the whole life only without success and without fulfilled feeling. And then I heard about this Stenophone that he once, when he was 12 years old, went to the beach, and out of 2,000 stones, he found a C major scale and played with another stone on this and made actually music, and came into the radio, sort of a BBC thing, a program called Hello, Hello. And then he actually had his 15 minutes of fame. And I thought that I was surprised that he wasn't proud about that. And I thought, well, everybody should hear this. And then I combined these two stories and two things about my father's life and decided that I want to tell a story about that it is important to try to get rid of all these devils sitting on your shoulders saying that you're not good enough, but believe in yourself and believe in your skills and become free, and then hopefully live a better life. So that's the spine of the story.
Right. Yeah, it's a beautiful theme. And when I heard that it was actually based on your own father's experience, it gives it so much more relevance because it's such an unusual story. But was it difficult for you to tell the story, seeing as it is such a personal family story? You're representing your father and your grandfather. I mean, did you find that difficult?
Yeah, there was one really difficult thing, actually. It was that I had to make my grandfather really tough in confronting my father when he was 12 years old, because otherwise you don't have this really conflict material in that film. I have a really sore and a big heart for my grandfather. Even if it's a personal story, I had to take the helicopter and look at it as a more universal story about being hard to each other and not seeing each other. So that was a hard part. We had some discussion, Kim and I, about should we frame the movie in our time and then go back in the 1950s, or should we just do the story about the 1950? And then we found out that the framing thing would actually bring it up to a more universal story. And also we could show that a person had lived a whole life and actually hasn't moved at all, was still carrying around with this terrible material from his childhood and the whole life.
So I imagine this is a story you heard a long time ago and you've been wanting to tell it for a while. Like, how long have you, when was the first time you felt this could make a great film?
I heard about the Stenofonen for 6 years ago. And because he wasn't proud of it, so he just put everything in a shell and put it away. And I heard about it, and then I brought it on and said, why don't you tell anybody about this? Because it's wonderful. But my whole life, I've heard that his relationships to his father was really tough. But the most important thing is that actually he's not tough because he's a mean guy. He did it out of love, in a way, to protect his son. If you don't do anything and don't make a fool out of yourself, just don't do anything, then you are secure. Instead of saying, well, do that and take a chance and make a mistake, he just protect him in a way. And his father protecting him as well. And my father tried to protect me as well. But since I hadn't lived with him, I didn't listen to him. And I was like, well, you can tell me that I'm not going to do this and this and this, but I'm doing it anyway. So I sort of broke the chain in a way.
Right. Yeah. Well, no, it's a beautiful story and nice how you've told it. And it's a real father-son story. And of course, you cast your own son, Louis, here, who's sitting beside you. And it's such a beautiful performance, Louis. So well done. What did you think when your dad comes to you and says, here, son, I'm thinking of making a film about, about granddad and his father. What was your first thoughts?
At first, I thought it was a bit weird that it was going to be my father as the director, and I thought it was going to be a little awkward and stuff like that. It was great filming, and it was fun to do, and yes, I really liked it.
So how did you find, so there's a question here actually from Film Business, and they're asking, did you have the pleasure of knowing your grandfather? Did you know your grandfather? Did you find it difficult to portray him in the film?
Yeah, I knew him. It wasn't like I didn't know that much about him. Kind of knew him as a person. And, he came to my birthdays and stuff like that. And from there, but I didn't know much of his past and stuff like that. So I just knew him, how he was, but not so much deeply about him.
Right.
You can say so.
So you've been acting before, though. Had you been acting before your dad asked you to play this role?
I think I did a TV series right before, and that was like the first big thing I did.
Okay, and what was it like working with your dad? Was that a strange experience, like having your dad as a director?
It was kind of weird, but also kind of fun. It was kind of like he drove me there, like being my dad. And when we were on the set, it was just from dad to director. It was also kind of nice knowing that it was like two different people. So you didn't feel like it was your dad on the set. Well, when you were filming, you didn't feel like awkward and stuff during the scene, but it was like a different person.
You were able to separate it, right? And you took it seriously like a job. Okay, yeah.
We had a situation at the beach where Louis was playing a scene, and then he had a line. I wrote a very long line, and he said to me, "Dad, it's a really bad line. Yeah, it's impossible to play this." Okay. And I said to him, "Well, can you at least try?" And he tried, and I could really feel that. As an actor, I could feel, wow, you're right. It's a really bad line.
It wasn't.
So we just took it away and found out that it was much better. So that's an example of being professional in a way, of having the professional talk at the set, and then we can drive home as fathers and son.
Well, that's a good working relationship, right? Yeah. Have you guys guys worked together before, like as actor director? Like, do you help? Like, I know you're both actors, of course, right? So, do you work with each other, like preparing for auditions or anything?
Not really. Not really. No.
Right, but you had an idea of what he was capable of before you cast him, Nikolai, did you?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. I knew that
You weren't wrong. No, it's a great performance, like really beautiful, Louis. Well done. And anyway, right, let's bring Kim in. Right, so Kim, you're the producer of this film. And well done. Yeah, it's a really beautifully made film, I think. So what was it about film that made you want to get involved?
There's actually a little family feud going on here, because Nikolai brought his son in to play, and I actually produced this with my daughter. So it was actually a very family-oriented shoot.
Right. I didn't know that. Right.
So that's good. No, but I mean, I think this story came, many years ago, actually. It was like 4.5 years ago, I think, the first time that Nikolai came and knocked on my door and said, I have to tell you a great story about my father. I just found out this and this, and I really, I need to tell this story. And then we began, and then he pitched it to me, and I felt it was so heartfelt, and I felt like some of the things that you see Nikolai and also Louis talking about here is that discovering somebody that is so close to you, discovering a past that you didn't know about, that you, of course, should have been told. I mean, this at the time in Denmark, at the time when this was happening, and you got into that program, I mean, that was a huge thing. And being somebody who wanted to play classical music and wanted to play, but had a very powerful father who kept you away from success because you were being put down as being not good enough. Being taken into the national radio, like Nikolai was saying, is the equivalent of the BBC, is a huge thing. And then it just got nobody ever knew about that. It was on the front page of this magazine that goes along with the program, which was a hugely popular program at the time. It wasn't about, the fame but I think it was a story. It's a story about being seen. It's a story about being honored for what you're good at. And I feel like when Nikolai kind of, pitched that idea, and I have something we all have something with dads, right? And we always have something about being approved by your father for what you've been doing. And, everybody has dad issues. So I just think that was a very important story to tell. And I think it felt very heartfelt and warm to my heart, and definitely jumped on it right away and said to Nikolai, I think this is something that, we hopefully can, do and get it out to a broader audience. And of course, the Oscars are always that milestone that you trying to get to, not because it's the Oscars, but it's because that gives the biggest distribution platform for any shorts in the world. So of course, that's always a goal. And so we're just thankful that we are here being shortlisted.
Thanks, Kim. You were just saying, about making the shortlist. But of course, you've been here before, haven't you? While we've got you. I think you've had like 6 Oscar nominations already, right? You won with 3 films that you were a producer on, right?
Yeah.
So like a question for you, which I think you get asked quite a lot, is, is there a formula, that makes a great film, or that makes a film, to get to the Oscars, to win an Oscar, or to, that will connect with Academy voters? Is there a secret?
Yes, I have been asked that many times. And my answer to that question is always, if you make a great film, you have a chance. I mean, that is the answer, because if you do make a bad film, you can't, especially the Oscars, it's such a clean awards thing. I mean, yes, we all hear about campaigning and doing ads and all that, but then, we also know that the Academy is putting more and more limitations to what people can do, because there was some years back, there was the whole thing about the money buys the awards and all these kind of things. So the Academy listens, they do put in all these kind of limitations on how much you can do. So I think out there is one of the cleanest award systems that can go on. So there's no formula how to do this. There's no ways to get in. You need to make a good film. And if you do that, then of course there are ways that you can promote your film better, or you have a great network like any other business in the world that you maybe can tap into. But in the end of the day, you still have to have the majority of 8,000 voters that needs to vote on your film in order to win. So, and if that film is not good, you won't win. That's my view on it. To that question, Vincent, there's also people asking, so and you asked it yourself, the formula kind of thing. Is there anything about the topics and all that? And as I've said that before, I think maybe in the past with the Academy and the what is called the old system, which was the time before 2014, where everything was watched in a theater, sitting in a dark room with, no phones, no computer screen, no tea kettling, in the background or anything like that. I think, and many of those years passed before 2014, you had many of the same volunteers in the Academy who really felt deeply about the short films. And that, of course, you can say, if that was some of the same people over years, you might go back and see that there would be topics and narratives that might go well with that group of people. But in the last 8 years now, we all know about the Academy, how great it has expanded into the international scene, and the whole 2020 and all those kind of progress has done that now everybody's watching these films from around the world, which also put it out there. You see, out of these 15 shortlisted films, you have 14 which is not English speaking, or it's not US films,
doesn't it? Yeah, okay.
So sorry, I shouldn't get going on that because that's a whole other topic matter. But I'm just saying the quick answer would have been, you make a great film and then you have a chance.
Right. Okay. Well, obviously, there was something in this film that connected with Academy voters because you're on the short list. It's one of 15. So it's a great place to be. There's a question here from Arts Muse magazine, Nikolai.
Yeah.
So have any of your family seen the film and what did they think of it?
Pretty much all of them have seen it and they're really, really happy about it. And there was one person I was a little afraid of showing, and it's my father's brother, because he, of course, knew his father pretty well. When he got out of the cinema, he said, well, it's pretty true that the relationship was so bad. But because he is like 13 years younger than my father, he actually just walked in his, right behind him. So my father took all the damage, and then he had a totally other relationship to his father. But all the other members of the family are very happy about it, and they think that it's very nice that we give my father this tribute in a way that he is, at least, I mean, he's dead now, but at least we can use his story to tell a universal story about that it's important to be as you are or don't come at all.
On that, Film Business also asked, how do you think your father would feel seeing his story on the big screen?
Oh, it could go in two directions in a way. He could take the direction and think that it's incredible and wonderful and almost be a little on a high note. But I think he would choose the other direction and said, well, no, don't do that, as his own father did to him. I think he was proud of all the things he did, but he only did it halfway. The way he speaks in the movie, Jesper Christensen, who is playing my father in the movie, he speaks and stop up, is not able to say the whole sentence and the whole line. And my father speaks like that. He stopped himself even when he spoke. He stopped himself in everything. When he was playing the violin, he was actually very good at playing violin, but he stopped himself. So it was so annoying to listen to, because you always looked at him and said, well, aren't you able to play the whole part? But he stopped himself because he was so traumatized. What do you call it? Traumatized of this little voice saying, "Well, you're not good enough. Don't do that." And I think it's sad in a way.
On that, Just Celeb magazine here actually have a question, and they say, was it difficult for you to rewatch your father's life? I mean, consider everything he went through and that struggle he had.
I won't say it was difficult for me. Actually, I found out. I mean, it's really a personal question and a personal answer. But since I was so young when my mom and dad got divorced, I had relationships to my father that. When I get older, I actually found out how proud I was that he gave me so many skills that I could see I got from him, but he wasn't able to fulfill his life. I could actually use all the skills I have adopted from him, and then I could go further with it because I had the freedom to do that. So in a way, I don't feel sadness, but I feel it's a warm feeling that it's important for me to show that movie.
Okay, so Louis, let's talk to you again. Playing your grandfather, right? You know, when you see his father being so horrible to him and everything, how do you feel about that? You know, when you kind of get to see what your father had to go through, and did you have any experience of that in your life? I mean, I hope your own dad is nicer to you than your dad's father was to him, but did you have any experience of that, or was there anything you did to help you prepare for that role?
Not really, but I kind of made it up my mind to see how it was to live in that situation and be that child, have that father and stuff like that. So make up my own story about living up like that. That was kind of my way of...
Right.
Yeah.
So, like in the film, you know, Jorn, he's very timid and quiet. You know, he doesn't answer back, or he does as he's told, right? So, you know, I'm wondering, you know, how different, you know, would you say you are to that character that you play in the film? Was it much of a stretch for you? I mean, or are you kind of similar? Are you like that in real life or not?
I wouldn't say so.
He answers back all the time, does he?
I'm pretty loud, and
so you're playing somebody different. You know, well, you play it very well. You know, but then also in the film, you know, there's also a lot of encouragement which comes from the teacher character. You know, so I think you get both of it. You know, and maybe. You know, is that something you've experienced, like, where sometimes, you know, it only takes one person to believe in you, and in the film, how it's told, there's the teacher. I'm not sure if that's a true story or not, but, you know, have you experienced that, like that level of encouragement in your life? So there's the teacher, and there's some lovely scenes in it, you know, where it's the teacher who comes to the house and brings the Stenofonen and arranges the radio interview. Did it actually happen like that, Nikolai, or is that something?
Yeah, sort of. He saw my father, he saw his first version of the Stenophone, and he heard him play, and he came to the family, and he was the man who had relationship to the radio program and brought him in there.
Okay, so it is actually quite accurate. It's very close to what happened then.
Yeah, more or less. I mean, of course, I took the freedom to combine these two things from my father's life: the struggle with his father, and then the Stenophone. Because if I should just have made a film about a Stenophone and a guy that had invented a music instrument, that wouldn't be enough. I had to put it in an emotional journey and an emotional package, so we could actually bring the movie to another level, to a level where it is a universal story about, which gives the audience a sort of a moral or things to think about when they go out, instead of just a movie about a Stenophone.
Right.
So I combined these two stories. And I mean, there is material from my father's life that I could make a whole feature film, because he did a lot of really, really strange things. He was a very interesting person. This is for now, and maybe one day I'm making a whole movie about him.
Right. So I see this question here from Just Celeb magazine, and they're asking about the audio. So was the audio of the Stones being played on the radio the original audio of your father? Is that correct?
Yes, it is. That was a decision the head of the sound department, he said, why don't we use the original music in the radio? And then we took all the sound from the Stones.
Recording then?
One of the first thing I took out of my dad's apartment when he was dead, I was searching for the Stones, and I was searching for the little newspaper or the magazine, and I was searching for a little cassette tape which were carrying the music, the program from the radio. And when I got that, I knew that I had the original material to use.
I mean, it's great to have that authenticity in there in the film, isn't it? It adds so much to it. And do you still have the original newspaper clipping as well?
Yes.
You still have that?
Yes, I still have it. Yeah, it's kind of a crazy instrument actually, and it's really it has such a nice sound. And of course, at the beach, when Louis' character, when Jørn is discovering the music, we try to make the sounds larger than life in a way, so we could have the feeling that the music were inside him in a way. The sound itself is really nice.
So Louis, right? So I think you really kind of managed to capture Jørn and that emotional turmoil that he's going through, and I think it's it's your performance that is so captivating to watch, for the audience. That's what keeps you watching the film. Well, for me anyway, it was, and it's a really beautiful, subtle performance. I think you can say a lot with your face and your eyes, and it's a great talent, to have. There was one moment in the film which I really loved. It's where the teacher asks you, "Why didn't you bring the violin?" or something. You say, "Oh, you didn't bring it," and he says, "Why not?" And then there's this long pause, right? And we're just watching you, and before you answer, and it's one of those lovely moments, where you can just say a lot, and then you say, "Oh, one of the strings broke." But there's a lovely subtlety and a real authenticity about how you deliver it. It's a very natural performance. So well done. Yeah, is that something that you apply to all of the roles you play? Because I see you're also in various other things. You're in The Chestnut Man and something. So is that something that you'll always bring to a role?
That's a good question. Probably, maybe. I don't know.
Right. Well, it's a lovely subtlety, and what's great about it, it doesn't feel like you're acting. It feels natural, and it pulls you in, because it's. So I think you've got a good career ahead of you as an actor, and I was amazed when I found out that your father was the director, because normally when this happens, when a director casts their son, they're usually not very good. But this was great. I think you could have seen hundreds of actors, Nikolai.
Yeah.
And Louis would still be the right ones. Amazing that he's right there in front of you, right?
Yeah, but I must say that I have asked myself, why should I use my own son? Because of course I could probably have found somebody else. But the thing is that because you can't see it as an audience, you don't know it as an audience that it's my son when you're watching it. But the important thing was that I did this movie, and in every single choices I had to take, all the decisions I made was out of searching to what is the best, what gives me the best emotion. And then I thought that it was a really brilliant idea to use Louis because he, first of all, he looks exactly like my father when he was 12 years old. And then I found out that it is like, I used to say, normally I say it's like a Russian babushka doll, where you have this inside and inside and inside dolls inside each other. So it's like a grandfather story and a father story and a son story, and it's through 4 generations. And then I thought that would be brilliant. In the beginning, I actually thought that I would cast my own father to play himself, but eventually he died. And then
right.
He
actually looks like your own father. Sorry, go ahead, Kim. Yeah.
No, I just want to add on that because, but now that's why I was raising my hand virtually before because I remember when we were doing it, talking about it first. Nikolai was like, if we do it now, we could maybe get my dad to play that. So it would really be a family. And I think that was also one of the things. I think when we talked about Louis playing the role or not, I kept on saying you should definitely do it because, of course, Nikolai was afraid of doing it because where could it go? How is it to direct your own son there and things like that? But as you heard Louis saying, and he was so professional on sets coming from a point of view of a producer. And it was really like Louis was saying, they arrived in the car and you didn't think that they were related. I mean, I would not think that Louis was Nikolai's son being on set or the other, there was nothing special. It was really like any other relationship between directors, producers, and actors. But I just feel like going in, it felt like such a great moment that you actually have, Nikolai is just saying, it's a grandfather, father, and son story. And actually everybody is in the movie because, Nikolai is even playing himself in the movie in real life when he meets with the dad, and Louis is playing the grandfather, and the grandfather is there with the original music. So it is really all in there.
Right. Did you say your grandfather is Nikolai's grandfather wrote the original music, or
no? Louis' grandfather,
gotcha.
that Louis plays, is the one who did the original music on the score.
I didn't know that. Right. Well, wow. Okay, good. I mean, how beautiful, right? And how interesting, to keep that connection with your family. It all works. So, yeah, well done. Super. So, Kim, were you shooting during the pandemic?
Yeah, we had, like any most other countries in the world, the pandemic goes like this. You feel like the virus is going by the wind around the globe, and it keeps on coming back in circles. So we had that little window of, I think, 3 months over the summertime. Like I think most countries, wherever it is summer at the certain times, the virus was down. And so we could actually go and shoot there. Of course, we took distance and more hand washing and whatever, and keeping a little distance, but there was no restrictions, not that we could do what we wanted to do. And also being outside, where you had the most people, the kids and all that, that was of course helpful that you're outside in the open air. We did have some scenes.
It's a beautiful location, the pier there at the end. Where is that?
Is up. I mean, the harbor is where the father and the pier and all that. That is just 30 minutes north of Copenhagen, and the beach scene is like an hour and 15 minutes northwest of Copenhagen.
Okay, right. Well, it's a lovely location, and also, I thought the cinematography was really beautiful in this film, and and the locations. There's a real lovely palette of kind of greens and greys and browns, and it has a lot to do with how you feel when you watch the film. So, Nikolai, did you want to just talk a little bit about that, about the cinematography and your production design, and how you found working with?
When I wrote this script, some of the first drafts was with a lot of words, and there was a lot of scenes, and there was a lot of too much in a way. And I found out that less words, and I wanted to tell the story through the images and through the atmosphere in the scenes. Of course, you would like that as a director, but if you have the scene where the father takes the violin, the important thing here was that I can remember the sound of that wall clock when I was a kid visiting my grandfather and grandmother, and I come in and he was sitting in the chair, and the only sound that was in there was just the clock on the wall. And I have been searching in the whole process. I have been searching for these moments where I could, through the way of shooting the film, the way of filming and framing, and then the coloring, the sound, I was searching for the emotions. And that's why it's actually a movie without a lot of words, more like long pauses. I wanted to be inside, inside the characters, instead of trying to show it. I want people to feel it.
Yeah, well, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful film to look at, but it also feels, real and natural, So what would you say was the most challenging aspect of making this film, Nikolai?
I think that actually, and that's why I asked Kim, because he is a world championship master in making movies, but he's really, really good at these short movies, live action short movies, because it's a really difficult format in a way to tell a story. And then I was really afraid of the ending of the movie, because if you want to show a person that becomes free, and when he's playing the music in the end of the movie, you can see in his face that, well, now he got rid of his devil at the shoulder saying that he's not good enough. Then it's because of this 22 minutes format. You take a risk being a little, making it too simple in a way and not with a lot of dimension. So I think the ending of the film was really a difficult thing. And then I luckily found the Beethoven material, the music, the classic music, the Beethoven, which I also used in the beginning of the movie. And my father was crazy with Beethoven. He was like, he had posters on the wall. Sometimes I think he thought he was Beethoven in a way. And then I found out that, well, if I use that music and then through that music could set him free, that would gain something for the scene. But I think definitely it was the ending of the movie that was difficult.
Okay, and same question to you, Louis. What was the most difficult part for you, would you say? Was there like one scene, so there's the scene where you cry, right, which is actually quite touching. I mean, was that difficult for you? Was that the most challenging part, or was there something else? Or how did you approach that?
No, I think it was the time where it was that long sentence on the beach that we canceled, and coming up with another one and stuff like that. And it was a little cold and a little breezy and stuff like that. So being there a little extra time and making up a new sentence, that was the most challenging, I would say.
Right.
There is one thing I think also was challenging. With all the kids at the beach in the water, it was really cold that day, and it was windy, and you were standing. You were standing in the water for a long time, and with the stones, and it was freezing, and the camera was on a rubber boat. What do you call it? A dinghy, and it was crazy that day, because all these kids should be in the water for quite a long time.
That is true. I think that is actually maybe the most challenging thing.
They were all, it was cold, right? Okay. So, well, yeah, good luck with your acting career, Louis. I think you have a brilliant career ahead of you. Let's hope your dad wins the Oscar. So there was a question here from Simon Gideon. Yeah, or what do you want audiences to take away from the film, Nikolai?
Can you say that again? Sorry.
What would you like audiences to take away from the film?
I would like the audience go home and think that it's important to put spotlight on each other instead of closing each other down. Set a little spotlight on everybody you meet on your way in your life, and then make people be better instead of being not good enough. So I want to give the impression that if you go out, and it's important to get rid of all your bad things in your luggage, in your backpack, get rid of it and try to actually aim a little bit more for being childish and have that freedom a child has. I mean, because when my father found this C major scale at the beach, it's with a lot of creativity, and I wonder what my father had been today if he had that creativity the whole life instead of being pushed down.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so last question then. Nikolai, what would it mean for you to win an Oscar?
An Oscar is an Oscar, and an Oscar is it's like when you're a kid and when you watch movies, and I watch Oscar every year, and I think it is probably the most fantastic thing you can get when you're in this business. So of course I would say it would be extremely nice if you look at the whole thing I am trying to do, giving my father the spotlight and the tribute. So it would be crazy. I think an Oscar is world championship in movies.
Right. And Kim, have you still got room left on the shelf for Oscar?
You have, Kim.
There's always room.
There's always room for one more, isn't there?
There's always room for another child.
And Louis, if your dad wins, is it going to be, partly your Oscar as well? Have you discussed this? Yeah, it's kind of both of yours Oscars, isn't it? Yeah, it's a good thing you live in the same house, then, isn't it?
But we don't want to have it on your room. We don't want to jinx it.
Well, I think it's a really great film, and I'll be rooting for you all the way. I think it's really beautiful. I think it deserves to go to the shortlist. I really hope you get the nomination, and I hope you go all the way and win that Oscar. It's a great film. I'll be following it with a lot of interest.